Tonight, you're going to travel through time. Not in a machine, but in your mind. Back through billions of years. Through the slow unfolding of life from single cells to the vast complexity surrounding you now. For the next hour, we'll explore the greatest story ever told. Not a myth. Not a legend. But the actual history of how life became what it is. How simple cooperation between cells led to eyes and brains and hearts. How fins became limbs. How dinosaurs became birds. How the impossible became inevitable through time measured in millions of years. But here's what we're not doing. We're not building a textbook. We're not forcing you to remember timelines or species names. We're drifting. Letting the slow current of deep time carry you away from the present moment. Away from your worries. Away from consciousness itself. You've carried enough today. The weight of immediate concerns. The pressure of tomorrow's demands. The endless small urgencies that fragment your attention. Let it all dissolve. Like sediment settling through ancient seas. Like consciousness drifting through layers of time. Breathe in slowly. Hold it. Let it go even slower. Feel your body growing heavy. Shoulders melting into the mattress. Jaw unclenching. Muscles releasing tension held since morning. This moment is yours. No deadlines exist here. No expectations. No tasks requiring your attention. You have permission to simply stop. For the next hour, you're safe. You're held. You're exactly where you need to be. We're building a sanctuary here, a campfire in the digital darkness where sleepy souls gather. Where the rush of modern life slows to geological time. Where rest becomes not just possible, but inevitable. You found your way here. Others are finding theirs. If this becomes your ritual, your path to peace, consider leaving a small mark. A quiet subscription. Not for me, but for the other wanderers still searching for their campfire. So the algorithm knows to guide them here. To this exact sanctuary you're experiencing right now. But that can wait. Everything can wait. Evolution took billions of years. Your tasks can wait until morning. For now, just breathe. And listen. And let yourself drift backward through time. Through the ages. Through the slow miracle of life becoming complex. Here's where everything starts. All animals share a common ancestor. Every creature with neurons and muscles. Every organism with eyes and hearts. Every being that moves and hunts and reproduces through sexual combination. All of them, all of us, descended from a single ancestral form. Somewhere in the deep past. Somewhere in ancient oceans. One lineage that would become everything. Jellyfish and humans. Butterflies and whales. Octopuses and eagles. All branches from one tree. Animals likely evolved from colonial single-celled ancestors. Not from isolated cells. From cells that learn to cooperate. To stay together after division. To function as collective rather than individuals. Multicellularity was a major step in animal evolution. Perhaps the major step. The moment when cells stopped competing and started collaborating. Single cells can only grow so large. Surface area to volume ratios become limiting. Diffusion becomes inadequate. Being small becomes mandatory. But colonies of cells? They can grow, can specialize, can divide labor between members, can become larger and more complex than any single cell ever could. Cooperation between cells made larger bodies possible. This seems obvious now, seems inevitable, but it required a revolution, a fundamental reorganization of how life worked. Cells had to subordinate individual reproduction to collective success, had to specialize for roles that wouldn't allow them to reproduce independently, had to trust the system, had to cooperate. Specialized cells allowed animals to perform different functions. Some cells became digestive, others contractile, able to move, others sensitive to light or chemicals or pressure. Division of labor allowing complexity impossible in single cells. The earliest animals probably appeared around 800 million years ago. Maybe earlier. The fossils are scarce, the evidence fragmentary. But molecular clocks and comparative genetics suggest deep origins. Ancient beginnings. Animal evolution began in the oceans, not on land. Land was still barren, sterile. No plants, no fungi, nothing but rock and water and atmosphere. The ocean was everything. The only place life existed. The only stage where evolution performed. But even in oceans, life needed something. Something that early Earth didn't have. Something that had to accumulate before complex animals became possible. Photosynthetic microbes helped increase Earth's oxygen. Cyanobacteria. Ancient organisms capturing light, splitting water molecules, releasing oxygen as waste. For billions of years, that oxygen reacted with iron, with sulfur, with anything that could oxidize. Oxygen was absorbed, removed, never accumulating. But eventually the sinks filled. The reactive materials oxidized completely, and oxygen began accumulating in water, in air, changing Earth's chemistry fundamentally. Oxygen in Earth's atmosphere helped make complex animal life possible. Because complex life needs energy, needs metabolism that can power movement and thought and all the expensive machinery of being an animal. And oxygen metabolism is efficient, produces far more energy than anaerobic alternatives, allows bodies to grow large, to be active, to be complex. The first animals had very simple body plans, nothing like what we see today. No eyes, no brains, no complex organs. Just simple sacs or sheets of cells, filtering water, absorbing nutrients, being barely more than organized colonies. Sponges give us a glimpse. Modern sponges resembling ancient forms. Still simple. Still just organized cells filtering water. No nervous system. No muscles. No centralized control. But they're animals. Multicellular. Cooperative. The first steps on a long path toward complexity. As you drift deeper into rest, picture those first simple animals. Imagine ancient oceans. Water filled with microbes. Sunlight filtering down through clear water. And somewhere in that primordial sea, the first cooperative cells, the first colonies, the first animals. So simple they barely qualify. So basic they seem hardly alive. But they're the beginning, the foundation, the ancestors of everything that came after. Including you. Your cells cooperate, specialize, function as collective. You are, in essence, a colony, a cooperative of trillions of cells working together. Every cell containing the same DNA but expressing different parts, becoming liver or brain or blood or bone based on signals and position and developmental history. You are the descendant of that first cooperation, that first decision to work together rather than compete, that first specialization of function. Rest now in thoughts of cooperation, of cells trusting each other, of individuals becoming collective, of the power that emerges from working together. Your body maintains itself through cooperation. Heart cells pumping, lung cells exchanging gas, immune cells defending, brain cells processing, all working together without conscious oversight. You can trust that cooperation tonight. Can let your conscious mind rest while the collective continues. Can surrender to the ancient patterns of cellular teamwork. Drift now, back through time, back to simple beginnings, back to when cooperation first made complexity possible. Let the origin of animals carry you deeper into sleep. Let the ancient oceans hold you. Let consciousness dissolve into the primordial waters where everything began. Just drift. Your breathing is slower now, deeper, like the slow rhythm of ancient tides. Perfect. Because we're exploring a frustrating truth, a gap in our knowledge created by the nature of early life itself. Early animals had no hard skeletons, no bones, no shells, nothing that would easily fossilize. Just soft tissue, muscle and skin and simple organs. Many early animal fossils are rare because soft bodies fossilize poorly. Flesh decays. Bacteria consume it. Scavengers scatter it. Within days, within hours sometimes, soft tissue is gone. Returned to the environment, leaving nothing behind. Fossilization requires specific conditions. Rapid burial in sediment that excludes oxygen. Chemical environments that preserve rather than destroy. Geological stability that prevents the fossil from being crushed or heated or eroded away over millions of years. Those conditions are rare. Most organisms die and simply disappear. Leave no trace. Exist only in the continuation of their descendants' DNA. The Ediacaran period preserved some of the earliest known animals. A window into deep time. A rare glimpse of soft-bodied life from before hard parts evolved. Strange organisms. Frond-like. Quilted. Disc-shaped. Some anchored to the seafloor. Others possibly drifting. Many looking like nothing alive today. Possibly extinct experiments. Possibly distant relatives of modern groups. The evidence too fragmentary to be certain. Sponges are among the earliest animal lineages. Simple. Ancient. Possibly the first branch off the animal tree. Or possibly not, the branching order is still debated. But definitely old. Definitely representing early solutions to the problem of being animal. Some early animals fed by filtering water, passing water through their bodies, extracting nutrients, bacteria, organic particles, anything small enough to capture. This is passive feeding. No hunting. No active pursuit. Just creating current and filtering what passes through. Efficient in waters rich with microbes. Sustainable. Simple. Early animals lacked complex organs. No hearts. No brains. No kidneys or livers or specialized structures. Just differentiated tissues doing basic functions. Layers of cells with different roles. But complexity was coming. Slowly. Through mutations preserved by selection. Through changes that made survival slightly more likely. Through the grinding patience of evolution operating across millions of years. Muscles allowed animals to move actively. This is huge. Revolutionary. Muscles mean not just drifting with current but moving against it. Choosing direction. Pursuing prey. Fleeing danger. Movement requires coordination. Random muscle contractions achieve nothing. You need control. Timing. Integration. Nervous systems evolved to process information and coordinate movement. Cells specialized for signaling. For rapid communication. For integrating inputs and producing coherent outputs. First simple nerve nets. Then concentrated clusters. Eventually brains. Centralized processing. The beginning of what might become consciousness. Complex organs evolved gradually over time. Heart-like pumps. Digestive systems with specialized regions. Excretory systems filtering waste. Each innovation building on what came before. Each change slight. Each accumulation making the next change possible. Digestive systems became more specialized in more advanced animals. Not just a simple sac where food enters and waste exits from the same opening. But a tube. A one-way system. Mouth to anus. Allowing specialization along the path. Stomach for breaking down. Intestines for absorption. Regions optimized for specific functions. This tube within a tube body plan became dominant. Most modern animals have it. Bilateral animals especially. From worms to humans. The same basic architecture. As you drift toward deeper sleep, picture evolution as slow accumulation. Not sudden leaps. Not dramatic transformations. Just tiny changes. Slight improvements. Mutations that help slightly. Selection that preserves them. Time that allows them to accumulate. Over millions of years, soft sacs become complex bodies. Simple filtering becomes specialized digestion. Nerve nets become brains. Nothing happening quickly. Everything happening inevitably. You are the product of this accumulation. Billions of years of slight improvements. Of small changes preserved because they helped. Of complexity building on complexity until consciousness emerged. Your body is a fossil in a sense. Not stone, but structure. Ancient designs preserved through inheritance. Tube digestive system. Bilateral symmetry. Centralized brain. All ancient innovations. All inherited from distant ancestors. Rest now in thoughts of accumulation. Of slow building. Of patience measured in geological time. You don't need to change overnight. Don't need dramatic transformation. Just small improvements. Tiny changes. Gradual accumulation. Evolution doesn't rush. Takes millions of years to build complexity. You can take your time too. Can let change unfold slowly. Can trust the process. Drift now with the soft-bodied ancestors. The simple animals. The beginning forms. Let their patience become yours. Let their slow accumulation of complexity remind you that meaningful change takes time. And rest. Just rest. You're so deep now. Thoughts fragmenting like ancient rocks eroding into sediment. Perfect. Because something extraordinary happened. Something that changed everything. An event so dramatic it defines entire eras of geology. The Cambrian explosion began about 539 million years ago. Not an explosion in the literal sense. No sudden event. But in geological terms, rapid. Incredibly rapid. The Cambrian explosion saw a rapid rise in animal diversity. In 10 million years, a blink in geological time, the fossil record transforms. Goes from sparse and simple to rich and complex. Many major animal groups first appear in Cambrian rocks. Arthropods. Mollusks. Echinoderms. Chordates. The ancestors of everything that crawls and swims and flies today. All appearing in the fossil record within a relatively short window. Did they all evolve in the Cambrian? Probably not. Molecular evidence suggests earlier origins. But this is when hard parts evolved. When shells and exoskeletons made fossilization likely. When the rock record suddenly captures what had been invisible. Most modern animal phyla have ancient origins. The basic body plans were established early. Very early. By the end of the Cambrian, most of the fundamental architectures existed. Everything since is variation on established themes. Body symmetry was an important evolutionary innovation. How you organize your body determines how you move. How you sense. How you interact with the world. Some animals evolved radial symmetry. Like wheels. Like flowers. Arranged around a central axis. No front or back. No left or right. Just top and bottom and repeating segments around the center. Jellyfish are radially symmetric. Sea stars. Sea anemones. It works for animals that are sessile or drift passively. For organisms that don't have a preferred direction of movement. Others evolved bilateral symmetry. Left and right mirror images. Front and back. Top and bottom. This became the dominant plan. The winning strategy for active movement. Bilateral symmetry helped animals move more efficiently. When you have a preferred direction of movement, forward, you can optimize for it. Streamline. Focus sensors ahead. Put locomotion behind. Become directional. Bilateral animals usually have a head end and tail end. Front with sensors, back with propulsion. This seems obvious, but it's actually sophisticated, specific, optimized for moving through environments. Cephalization is the concentration of sensory organs at the front of the body: eyes, antennae, nose, ears, all grouped at the end that enters new environments first. That meets opportunities and threats before the rest of the body. This makes sense. You want to know what you're moving into. Want to detect food or danger before you've committed fully. Want processing close to sensors to minimize signal delay. Cephalization improved hunting and navigation. Predators need to find prey, need to track, need to approach without being detected. Having concentrated sensors and processing at the front helps all of this. And once some animals became effective predators, others needed defenses, needed ways to avoid being eaten, needed armor or speed or toxins or camouflage. The first eyes evolved long ago in animal history. Simple light sensing patches at first, then cups, then lenses, then the sophisticated camera eyes of vertebrates and cephalopods. Vision was a huge advantage for predators and prey. Predators could see prey from distance, track movement, plan approaches. Prey could see predators coming, could flee or hide, could assess threats without physical contact. An arms race beginning. Predator vision improving to catch better seeing prey. Prey vision improving to escape better seeing predators. Both driving each other toward greater sophistication. A centralized brain evolved in many animal groups, concentrating processing near sensors, creating integration centers, places where different inputs combine, where decisions form, where something like intention emerges. Brains are expensive, require enormous energy, but they provide advantages that justify the cost. Better integration, faster processing, more sophisticated behavior. As you drift into deeper sleep, picture the Cambrian seas, suddenly filled with complexity, with moving animals, with predators and prey, with shells and eyes and brains. After billions of years of single cells and simple animals, suddenly everything, all the major groups establishing themselves, all the fundamental patterns locking in. Why then? Why the Cambrian? Probably multiple factors. Oxygen levels rising, predation creating selection pressure, environmental changes opening niches, genetic innovations making complexity possible. Everything aligning. But the result is clear. Life diversified, became complex, became the foundation for everything that followed. You carry Cambrian innovations in your body. Bilateral symmetry, cephalization, eyes, brain. These aren't recent inventions. They're ancient, established before your lineage left the ocean, before it grew limbs, before it became mammalian. Rest now in thoughts of ancient origins, of patterns established so long ago they feel inevitable, of body plans refined over 500 million years. You are ancient architecture, modern expression of Cambrian innovations. walking, seeing, thinking through structures established in seas you'll never swim. Drift now with the Cambrian explosion, with the great unfolding of animal diversity, with the moment when life became complex. Let that deep history hold you. Let those ancient patterns carry you into sleep. You are the continuation of something very old, very successful, very refined. Rest in that lineage. Let it comfort you. Just rest. Almost gone now. Almost dreaming. Almost dissolved into the depths of time. Stay with me. Just a little longer. Because we need to understand what drives evolution. What shapes bodies and behaviors and all the sophisticated machinery of life. Predation became a powerful evolutionary force. Once some animals started eating other animals, everything changed. Life became dangerous. Survival required not just finding food but avoiding being food. Predator-prey arms races drove many adaptations. Predators evolving to be better at catching. Prey evolving to be better at escaping. Each improvement by one side creating pressure on the other. Neither ever winning. Both getting more sophisticated. Shells and armor evolved partly as defenses. Hard coverings that teeth and claws can't easily penetrate. Mollusks retreating into calcium carbonate fortresses. Arthropods encasing themselves in chitin armor, making themselves difficult prey. But armor is heavy, limits movement, requires energy to build and maintain. It's a trade-off. Protection versus mobility. Safety versus speed. Some animals evolved camouflage to avoid predators, becoming invisible through looking like backgrounds, matching colors and patterns and textures, disappearing in plain sight. Camouflage works against visual predators, but it requires staying still, requires the right background, fails if you need to move or if you're in the wrong environment. Others evolved warning colors to signal danger. Bright reds, bold yellows, high contrast patterns, advertising rather than hiding, saying I'm dangerous. Don't eat me. You'll regret it. Warning colors work if you have something to warn about. If eating you would harm the predator. Otherwise it's just making yourself visible, making yourself easier to catch. Toxicity evolved in many lineages. Poison dart frogs, venomous snakes, toxic insects, stinging jellyfish. Chemical defense deployed in countless forms across countless species. Toxins are effective. Protect even small animals from large predators. But they're expensive to produce. Require specialized glands. Require genetic information to encode the chemical synthesis pathways. Venom evolved independently in several animal groups. Snakes, spiders, cone snails, scorpions, jellyfish. Each lineage developing venom separately. Convergent evolution finding the same solution. Venom is offense and defense. Helps subdue prey. Deters predators. Serves multiple functions. Justifies the metabolic cost. But evolution isn't just about predation. Isn't just arms races. There are other forces. Other factors shaping life. Evolution is driven by mutation, selection, drift, and gene flow. 4 processes, each contributing, each important. Mutations create new genetic variation. Random changes in DNA. Copying errors. Damage. Chemical modification. Most harmful. Some neutral. A few beneficial. Without mutation, evolution stalls. No new variation. No new possibilities. Just reshuffling existing traits. Mutation is the raw material, the source of novelty. Natural selection favors traits that improve survival or reproduction. This is the non-random part. The filter. Traits that help tend to spread. Traits that harm tend to disappear. But selection isn't the only force. Isn't the only factor shaping evolution. Genetic drift can change traits by chance. Random fluctuations in which individuals reproduce. Which genes get passed on. Particularly important in small populations where chance effects are magnified. Drift can fix neutral mutations. Can even fix slightly harmful ones. Can override weak selection. It's noise in the system. Randomness that creates pattern. Gene flow moves genes between populations. Migration. Interbreeding. Connecting populations that were isolated. Homogenizing. Spreading beneficial mutations. Preventing divergence. Evolution does not always produce perfect designs. Perfection isn't the goal. Can't be. Evolution works with what exists. Modifies. Jury-rigs. Makes do with available materials. Your body contains imperfections. Vestigial structures. Suboptimal arrangements. The recurrent laryngeal nerve making an unnecessary detour. Wisdom teeth that don't fit. Evidence of evolution's tinkering rather than perfect design. Evolution has no fixed goal or direction. Isn't trying to reach anywhere. Isn't progressing toward complexity or intelligence or any particular endpoint. Just responding to immediate selection. Just solving current problems. Extinction is a normal part of evolution. Most species that ever lived are now extinct. Over 99%. Gone. Failed. Unable to adapt to changing conditions. Outcompete. Unlucky. Extinction clears space. Creates opportunities. Allows new radiations. Your ancestors survived countless extinctions. Countless environmental shifts. Countless challenges. But most lineages didn't. You are the product of survivors. Of lucky branches. Of lineages that happened to have traits that worked when others didn't. As you drift into complete unconsciousness, let this perspective settle. You are temporary. Your species is temporary. All species eventually go extinct. All lineages eventually end. But right now, you exist. You are the current expression of a lineage stretching back billions of years. Unbroken. Continuous. Successful in the only way evolution measures success. You're here. Rest now in thoughts of impermanence. Of change. of the temporary nature of all forms. Tomorrow you'll wake, but someday you won't. Someday your species won't exist. That's not tragedy. That's just time. Just the normal flow of evolution. For now, you exist. And that's enough. That's everything. Drift now with the extinct. With the 99% who didn't make it. With all the experiments that failed. All the lineages that ended. You survived. For now. And that's worth resting in. Worth appreciating. Just sleep. Your body is so heavy now. Like sediment settling through ancient waters. Perfect. Because we're about to witness one of evolution's most dramatic transitions. One of the most difficult. One that required innovations so fundamental they still define how land animals live. Movement onto land was one of evolution's biggest transitions. Think about what this requires. Everything is different on land. Gravity is unmediated. No water to support your weight. Your body must hold itself up against full gravitational pull. Air is thin. No dissolved oxygen. You can't filter feed it through gills. You need lungs. Surfaces for gas exchange. Ways to move air in and out without drying out delicate membranes. Water is scarce on land. You dry out. Desiccate. You need waterproof coverings. Ways to retain moisture. Strategies for finding and consuming water. It's a different world. Requires different solutions. Different bodies. Different behaviors. Plants and fungi colonized land before most animals did. Around 500 million years ago. Creating the foundations. Making life on land sustainable for those that followed. Plants produced oxygen on land. Provided food. Created structure, forests and meadows and all the complexity that comes with plant communities. Without plants, land remains barren. Unsuitable for animal life. Arthropods were among the first animals to live on land. Millipedes. Primitive hexapods. Spiders. Animals with exoskeletons already adapted for supporting weight. With bodies already somewhat waterproof. The exoskeleton that evolved for protection in water worked on land too. Provided structure. Prevented water loss. Gave arthropods advantages in the new environment. Vertebrates later adapted to terrestrial life. Took longer. Required more modification. More innovation. But eventually they made the crossing. And the transition left evidence. Structures that exist only because they evolved for one purpose and were repurposed for another. Fins evolved before limbs. Fish fins for maneuvering in water. For stabilization. For propulsion. Not for walking. Not for bearing weight. But some fish lived in shallow water. In environments that occasionally dried up. In places where being able to move across mud or through very shallow water provided advantage. Limb-like fins helped some fish move in shallow water. Fins with bones inside. With joints. With enough structure to push against substrate. To crawl short distances when necessary. Not to live on land permanently. Just to survive brief terrestrial exposure. To move between pools, to escape stranded situations. But these fins provided the foundation, the starting point for limbs that could support weight, that could walk, that could fully terrestrialize. Lungs evolved in some fish before land animals appeared, not for breathing air on land, for supplementing gills in oxygen-poor water. Some fish live in stagnant pools, in warm water with low oxygen. Gills alone aren't enough. They gulp air at the surface, extract oxygen through vascularized pouches. Primitive lungs, lung-like organs helped animals breathe air, were already present, already functional, just needed modification, improvement, optimization for full-time air breathing. Evolution doesn't invent from scratch. It modifies what exists, repurposes, jury-rigs, turns fins into limbs, swim bladders into lungs, water-dwelling fish into land-walking tetrapods. Tetrapods evolved from lobe-finned fish. Fish with fins containing bone structure similar to tetrapod limbs. Upper arm bone, 2 lower arm bones, multiple wrist/ankle bones, fingers/toes. The pattern existed in water before it was used on land. Evolution tinker. ing with existing structures. Modifying. Gradually. Over millions of years. Until fish could crawl. Then walk. Then run. Tetrapods are vertebrates with 4 limbs or limb ancestors. This includes amphibians, reptiles, mammals, birds, even snakes and whales. They're tetrapods whose ancestors had 4 limbs even though they've since lost or modified them. The first tetrapods still spent much time in water, weren't fully terrestrial, still needed water for reproduction, for keeping skin moist, for hunting. They were transitional, between worlds, at home in neither, slowly adapting, slowly accumulating changes that would make full land life possible. As you drift toward deeper sleep, picture those first tetrapods, crawling onto muddy banks, gasping air through primitive lungs, bearing weight on fins becoming limbs. Awkward, inefficient, but surviving. Every major transition requires awkward phases, intermediate stages that aren't optimized for either environment, times of vulnerability, of imperfection, of making do. But those awkward phases are necessary. You can't jump from fish to mammal, can't leap from water to land without going through the difficult middle, the transitional, the not quite either. Rest now in thoughts of transition, of being between states, of awkward phases leading to new capabilities. Maybe you're in transition now, between old patterns and new, between who you were and who you're becoming. It feels awkward, inefficient, like you don't quite fit anywhere. That's okay. That's normal. That's what transition looks like. The tetrapods crawling onto land felt the same. Didn't quite fit in water anymore. Didn't quite fit on land yet. But through that awkward phase, they became something new. You will too. Through the discomfort, through the inefficiency, through the feeling of not fitting, Drift now with the transitional tetrapods, the between-world creatures, the ones who made the impossible crossing. Let their courage inspire you. Let their awkwardness normalize yours. Let their eventual success remind you that transition leads somewhere. Just rest. You're floating now, barely present, like a thought half remembered. Perfect. Because we're about to explore the innovations that finally freed land animals from their aquatic origins. Amphibians represent an early vertebrate land adaptation. Frogs, salamanders, creatures that can breathe air and walk on land but remain tied to water. They need water for reproduction. Lay eggs in ponds. Eggs with no shell, vulnerable to desiccation, must stay moist or die. Their larvae are aquatic, tadpoles with gills, living in water, gradually metamorphosing, eventually developing lungs and limbs, transitioning from water to land within a single lifetime. Amphibians succeed in many environments, but they're limited, tethered to water for reproduction, unable to colonize truly dry habitats. Then came a revolution, an innovation that changed everything, that allowed vertebrates to truly leave water behind. Reptiles evolved eggs that could survive away from water. Eggs with shells, with membranes that held moisture, with self-contained environments for development. The amniotic egg was a major evolutionary breakthrough, perhaps one of the most important in vertebrate history. Amniotic eggs helped vertebrates live farther from water, could be laid on land, in burrows, in nests, anywhere reasonably protected. No pond required, no standing water necessary. Inside the shell, membranes created compartments. The amnion holding the embryo in fluid, the allantois handling waste, the chorion facilitating gas exchange, the yolk sac providing nutrition, a portable pond, a self-contained aquatic environment wrapped in protective shell, allowing development away from water, allowing true terrestrial reproduction. With amniotic eggs, reptiles could colonize deserts, mountains, forests far from rivers or lakes. Anywhere they could hunt and survive, freed from water's limitation. But the story of land vertebrates isn't just reptiles. There's another lineage, one that would eventually become mammals. Synapsids appeared long before true mammals, reptile-like animals, but on a different evolutionary path. Different skull structure, different metabolism, different trajectory. Mammals evolved from reptile-like ancestors called synapsids, not from dinosaurs, not from lizards, from a separate lineage that diverged early, that took its own path toward warmth and hair and milk. The transition took millions of years. Gradual changes, synapsids becoming more mammal-like, developing traits that define mammals, until eventually the line between synapsid and mammal blurs, becomes semantic, becomes a matter of definition. Mammals are defined by traits like hair and milk production. Hair for insulation, for temperature regulation, for communication through scent glands embedded in follicles. Milk for feeding young, allowing extended parental care, allowing larger brains that require more development time, creating bonds between mother and offspring. Warm-bloodedness helped mammals stay active in different climates. Endothermy, generating internal heat, maintaining constant body temperature regardless of external conditions. This is expensive, requires enormous food intake, requires complex metabolism, but it provides advantages. Activity in cold, activity at night, activity when cold-blooded reptiles are sluggish. Mammals diversified greatly after the dinosaurs died out. Stayed small during the Mesozoic. During the age of dinosaurs. Limited to marginal niches. Night hunting. Small prey. Hidden existence. But when the asteroid hit, when the dinosaurs died, when ecological niches opened up, mammals exploded, radiated, filled the vacancies, became large, became dominant, became the megafauna. From mouse-sized insectivores to whales and elephants, all in roughly 60 million years. Blink of geological time. Explosion of mammalian diversity filling the post-dinosaur world. As you drift into deeper sleep, appreciate the innovations that made you possible. Amniotic egg. Warm-bloodedness. Hair and milk. All ancient. All established long before humans existed. You are endothermic. Maintain constant temperature even now as you sleep. Your metabolism running. Burning calories. Generating warmth. Keeping your core temperature stable while external temperature fluctuates. This happens automatically. Unconsciously. Your body managing heat production and heat loss without your attention. Ancient mammalian machinery operating while you rest. Rest in that automation. In the ancient innovations that keep you alive without effort. In the warm-bloodedness that lets you sleep in air-conditioned rooms or heated spaces. That buffers you from environmental temperature. You are the product of amniotic eggs and endothermy. Of innovations that freed vertebrates from water and cold. Of changes that made your existence possible. Drift now with those ancient innovations. With eggs that held private ponds. With warm blood flowing through sleeping bodies. Let evolution solutions comfort you. Let the ancient machinery continue its work. Just rest. Almost gone now. Almost dissolved completely into the darkness of deep time. Stay with me. Because we need to visit the most famous chapter. The age that captures imagination more than any other. The time when reptiles grew to impossible sizes and dominated the earth. Dinosaurs dominated many ecosystems for over 160 million years. Not a brief period. Not a failed experiment. Longer than mammals have been dominant. Longer than flowering plants have existed. A reign measured in deep time. They were successful. Diverse. Adaptable. Living in every terrestrial environment. From poles to equator. From forests to plains to deserts. Herbivores and carnivores and omnivores. Tiny and enormous. Feathered and scaled. And then something remarkable happened. Something that most people don't realize. Something that rewrites how we see the modern world. Birds evolved from theropod dinosaurs, from the same group as Tyrannosaurus and Velociraptor. Two-legged carnivorous dinosaurs. Small ones mostly. Developing feathers. Developing flight. Becoming something new while remaining dinosaurs. Birds are living dinosaurs. This isn't metaphor. Isn't poetic language. It's literal classification. Birds are surviving members of the dinosaur lineage. The only ones that made it through the mass extinction. When you see a robin or sparrow or eagle, you're seeing a dinosaur. A direct descendant. A living continuation of the Mesozoic. Feathers evolved before flight in many cases. Not for flying initially. For insulation probably. For display. For sexual selection. Colorful plumage advertising fitness. Feathers may have first evolved for insulation or display. Structures similar to hair. Providing warmth. Providing visual signals. Useful without flight. Valuable without aerodynamics. But feathers happen to be good for flight too. Light. Strong. Capable of creating airfoil surfaces. And once flight became possible, selection refined them. Optimized them. Made flight more efficient. Flight evolved independently in insects, pterosaurs, birds, and bats. Convergent evolution. For separate lineages finding similar solutions to the same problem, how to move through air. Each using different structures. Insects using thin membranes supported by veins. Pterosaurs using skin membranes stretched between elongated fingers. Birds using feathers. Bats using skin stretched between elongated hand bones. Different materials. Different mechanics. But all achieving powered flight. All finding ways to generate lift and thrust. All escaping the constraints of terrestrial locomotion. Bats are the only mammals capable of powered flight. Evolved around 50 million years ago. Long after birds. Long after pterosaurs went extinct. But achieving similar capabilities through different means. Flight opened many new ecological niches. Aerial insect hunters. Fruit eaters accessing canopy resources. Pollen and nectar feeders. Predators attacking from above. New ways of living. New strategies for survival. But flight isn't always permanent. Isn't always maintained once evolved. Some birds later lost flight after evolving on predator-free islands. Penguins. Ostriches. Kiwis. Countless island species. Flight is expensive. Requires large muscles. Limits body size in some ways. Requires high metabolism. On islands without mammalian predators, flight becomes unnecessary. The costs outweigh benefits. Selection favors larger bodies. Stronger legs. Reduced flight muscles. Eventually flight is lost. Evolution giveth and evolution taketh away. Traits arise when useful. Disappear when costly. Nothing is permanent. Nothing sacred. And sometimes evolution does something that seems impossible. Something that feels like going backward. Like undoing millions of years of progress. Whales evolved from land-dwelling mammals. Yes. Whales. Marine mammals descended from animals that walked on land, that had 4 legs, that breathed air and gave birth on solid ground. Their ancestors left the ocean millions of years ago, became tetrapods, became mammals. Then some lineage of land mammals went back, returned to water, gave up terrestrial life for aquatic existence. Why? Because the ocean held resources, food, niches, opportunities, and these mammals could exploit them, could hunt fish, could grow large without gravity constraints, could swim and dive and thrive. As you drift into final sleep, picture the long, strange journey. Fish leaving water, tetrapods evolving, synapsids becoming mammals, mammals diversifying, some mammals returning to the sea, coming full circle, abandoning land, going back to the ocean, not as fish but as air-breathing, warm-blooded mammals, keeping their mammalian heritage while adapting to aquatic life. Evolution isn't a ladder, isn't linear progress. It's a bush, branching, meandering, doubling back, trying everything, keeping what works, discarding what doesn't. Sometimes progress means going back, returning to oceans, losing flight, simplifying. There's no shame in it, no failure, just adaptation to circumstance. Rest now in thoughts of non-linear paths, of journeys that circle back, of progress that doesn't look like progress. Maybe your life isn't linear either. Maybe you've circled back, returned to earlier patterns, revisited old ground. That's okay. That's natural. That's what evolution does. Drift now with the whales, the mammals who went home to the ocean, the creatures who prove that progress isn't always forward. Let their story comfort you. Let it remind you that all paths are valid, all journeys acceptable. Just rest. You're barely here. Just a ghost. Just the faintest whisper of consciousness. Perfect. Because we need to complete the whale story. Need to see how dramatic evolution can be. How thoroughly it can transform bodies. Whale ancestors returned to the sea. Around 50 million years ago. Land mammals living near coasts. Hunting fish. Spending more time in water. Gradually adapting. Eventually fully committing. Whale limbs gradually transformed into flippers. Front legs becoming paddles. Bones still inside. Still the same basic tetrapod pattern, 1 upper arm bone, 2 forearm bones, 5 fingers. But compressed. Flattened. Adapted for swimming. Hind legs disappearing. Becoming vestigial. Tiny bones floating in muscle. Serving no function. Just evolutionary leftovers. Evidence of terrestrial ancestry. Whale nostrils shifted toward the top of the head to form blowholes. Started at the front like all mammals. But selection favored nostrils positioned higher. Easier breathing while swimming. Less need to lift head. More efficient. Over millions of years, nostrils migrated. Moved up the skull. eventually reaching the top, becoming blowholes, holes that seem perfectly designed for aquatic breathing, but they're modified nostrils, repurposed, moved through incremental changes. Everything about whales screams fish convergence. Streamlined bodies, fins, tail flukes. But look closely and you see mammal. See warm blood. See lungs. See live birth. See milk. See bones and flippers arranged like hands. They're not fish. They're mammals cosplaying as fish. Evolving similar solutions because water demands similar shapes. Because physics is physics. Because hydrodynamics favors streamlining regardless of ancestry. Snakes evolved from lizard-like ancestors. Another dramatic transformation. Another loss. Lizards with 4 legs became snakes with none. Why lose limbs? Because for burrowing animals, limbs are impediments. Get in the way. Create friction. Make tunneling harder. Selection favored smaller limbs. Eventually no limbs. Just smooth cylindrical bodies that could slide through soil or sand or dense vegetation. Some snakes still have tiny pelvic bones. Buried in muscle. Completely internal. Serving no function. Just evidence. Fossils of former limbs preserved in anatomy. The evolution of giraffe necks involved selection for feeding and possibly competition. Long necks reaching leaves other herbivores can't. Accessing resources. Reducing competition. Justifying the cardiovascular challenges of pumping blood up that length. Each vertebra elongated. Not more vertebrae, giraffes have same number as other mammals. Just stretched. Extended. Made longer through selection over millions of years. Elephant trunks evolved from elongated upper lips and noses. Fusion of nose and upper lip into muscular appendage. Possibly starting as snorkel. Breathing while partly submerged. Then becoming manipulator. Tool. Weapon. Sense organ. 40,000 muscles. Capable of picking up single leaves or uprooting trees. Sensitive enough to feel texture. Strong enough to fight lions. Versatile. Sophisticated. One of evolution's most remarkable inventions. Every modification built on what existed. Every change slight. Every innovation jury-rigged from available materials. Humans and other primates share a common ancestor. Around 6 to 7 million years ago for humans and chimps. Longer for more distant primates. Human evolution did not come from modern monkeys. We didn't descend from chimps or gorillas or any living primate. We share ancestors with them. Branched from common lineages. Took our own path. The apes you see in zoos are cousins. Not grandparents. Not earlier versions of humans. They've been evolving just as long. Adapting to their niches. Becoming what works for them. Opposable thumbs are an important primate adaptation. Allows precision grip. Manipulation. Tool use. Writing. Building. All the manual dexterity that makes human technology possible. But opposable thumbs evolved in primates before humans. Before tool use. probably for grasping branches, for arboreal life, for moving through trees, repurposed later for tools. Tool use became important in human evolution. Stone tools, fire, clothing, shelter. Each innovation changing selection pressures. Each change favoring intelligence, planning, communication, social cooperation. Tools and brains co-evolved. Tools requiring intelligence to make and use. Intelligence providing advantage in tool making. Feedback loop. Each generation slightly smarter, slightly better at tools. Until here we are. As consciousness finally extinguishes completely, hold this final truth: you are modified ape. Terrestrial, bipedal, big-brained, but ape nonetheless. Your body shows it. Tailbone vestige of lost tail. Wisdom teeth from when jaws were larger. Appendix from when diet was different. Evolution's leftovers. Proof of ancestry. You didn't spring fully formed. You're the latest model. The current iteration. Built from modified primate. Which was modified mammal. Which was modified synapsid. Which was modified tetrapod. Which was modified fish. Which was modified all the way back to colonies of cells, to single cells, to self-replicating molecules, to chemistry, to stardust. You are continuous with everything, part of the unbroken chain. Temporary expression of patterns running back billions of years. Rest in that continuity, in that connection, in that flow of life through time. You are the universe looking at itself. Star material organized into consciousness. Temporarily, briefly, beautifully. Drift now. Let consciousness dissolve. Let the boundaries between you and history blur. You are 4 billion years of evolution. You are the current moment in an ongoing story. You are temporary but connected. Fleeting but meaningful. Rest. Finally. Completely. Let evolution hold you. Let deep time cradle you. Let the knowledge of your place in the story comfort you. You are home. Always have been. Always will be. Until you're not. Until your pattern dissolves and returns to the flow. But tonight, rest. Just sleep. You made it through, sleepy soul. Or perhaps you didn't. Perhaps you drifted away chapters ago, which is exactly what should have happened. If these whispered truths about life's deep history helped you find rest, if this sanctuary gave you peace, consider helping other wanderers find their way here. A quiet subscription. A gentle share. Not for me, but for them. For the other sleepy souls still searching. We'll be here. Whispering the story of life through deep time. Building this campfire bigger, brighter, warmer. Welcome home. Rest well. Always.